Picture this. You are lining up on a football field. You're on defense.
Okay, I'm with you.
You look across the line of scrimmage, and the opposing offense is just completely spread out. Like, receivers are split wide to the sidelines. The tight ends is in the slot.
The backfield is totally empty.
Exactly. The backfield is empty. And suddenly, you have a massive problem on your hands. The field is stretched to its absolute limits, right? And you are being forced to cover, way more ground than you're comfortable with. It's a completely anxiety-inducing scenario for a defense.
Oh, it really is. It forces a total breakdown of all your traditional defensive comfort zones. You can't just bunch up your big guys in the middle of the line anymore.
Right.
You're forced to react. You have to spread your resources incredibly thin. And the terrifying part of that formation is that just one small mistake.
Like a linebacker missing an assignment or something.
Yeah, exactly. One linebacker missing an assignment in an open space, and it means the offense just blew right past you for a massive gain.
Well, and that feeling of being stretched, right? That aggressive, relentless covering of ground, that is actually the central metaphor for our deep dive today. We are unpacking this fascinating book called The Spread Strategy by Doc Murphy.
It's a really provocative read.
It really is. The mission for this deep dive is to explore how the author takes this, this aggressive, field-stretching ball tactic and applies it directly to Christian church growth, which is kind of a wild connection when you first hear it.
Yeah, but it works so well because the core of this source material is a complete, just unapologetic rejection of the traditional megachurch model.
The huge buildings and all that.
Right. Instead of trying to gather, thousands of people into one massive centralized building every single Sunday, the spread strategy argues for multiplying thousands of tiny congregations absolutely everywhere.
Just blanketing the area.
Yeah, it redefines what a successful church looks like from the ground up.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to understand why the author thinks this spread offense is like the only viable path forward, we first have to look at what he believes is fundamentally broken about the traditional playbook.
The old way of doing things, right?
Yeah. And he uses this really vivid animal metaphor to break this down, comparing the traditional church growth model to an elephant.
Right, the elephant. Think about the life cycle and just the sheer mass of an elephant. It is undeniably huge. It's incredibly powerful. And, when it moves into an area, it demands attention.
You can't ignore an elephant.
Exactly. But it is also extremely slow-moving and super resource-heavy. Like, an elephant has a gestation period of 22 months just to produce a single offspring.
Wow. 22 months.
Yeah. And the author argues that this is just the perfect mirror for how traditional megachurches operate.
Well, because they function as these massive, heavily centralized organizations, right?
Yeah.
Like if an elephant model church wants to grow or open a new location, it literally takes years of planning.
Oh, the bureaucracy alone.
It's endless. You have zoning permits, you have massive capital fundraising campaigns, building committees.
Hiring searches for executive staff.
Yes. And all these complex infrastructure logistics, it really does take 22 months of bureaucratic gestation just to produce a little bit of growth.
It's a slow, lumbering giant. And it requires this massive intake of resources just to sustain its own weight, let alone grow. So the author argues the church was actually never designed to be an elephant. It should be a rabbit.
A rabbit. Because rabbits are small, highly agile, and they multiply exponentially.
Like crazy, yeah.
Like a single pair of rabbits can produce multiple litters in a year. And then those offspring are reproducing almost immediately. So the book is arguing that a movement should multiply like rabbits, rapidly and aggressively, instead of slowly consolidating power like a single elephant.
That's the core argument, yes.
I have to push back on the author's premise here, though, because look, there is some major cultural friction in this idea.
What do you mean?
Well, in American culture, we are deeply, deeply conditioned to believe that bigger is always better.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. The natural instinct for success, whether you are, building a tech startup or a retail brand or a religious organization, is to build a massive stadium-sized flagship.
The optics matter to people.
Exactly. The optics of a packed arena, the concert-level lighting, the professional music that signals success to us. So how does the source argue that being intentionally smaller actually creates a bigger overall impact?
He attacks that exact cultural assumption head on.
Yeah.
And he does it by leaning into human sociology and operational friction. He brings up Dunbar's number.
Oh, I love Dunbar's number.
Right. For anyone listening who might be unfamiliar, this is that well-known sociological principle that human beings can really only maintain a limited number of truly meaningful relationships.
Like your brain literally hits a hard limit.
Exactly. You might recognize, say, 150 people by name, but the circle of people you actually have close, accountable, highly connected daily relationships with, it's much smaller. It usually caps out around 20 to 30 people.
And think about your own life as a listener, right? If you've ever sat in the back row of a massive, 5,000-seat auditorium.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And you realize that absolutely no one would notice if you just quietly slipped out the back door early. You've experienced exactly what the author is talking about. You aren't really part of a community in that moment. You're just a spectator at an event.
That is the crucial distinction, spectator versus community. Therefore, the spread strategy intentionally caps its individual congregations at just 20 to 30 people.
Wow, hard cap.
Yeah, because when a group stays that small, you actually maintain real intimacy and accountability. But beyond just the relationships, the tactical advantage is purely operational. Keeping it small completely eliminates the massive overhead of the elephant. You don't need a multi-million-dollar building campaign.
You don't have to deal with zoning boards.
Right. You don't have expensive long-term commercial leases or huge utility bills just to keep the HVAC running in some empty sanctuary all week long.
So wait, where are these groups actually meeting then?
They're meeting in coffee shops, living rooms, storefronts, co-working spaces, just everyday spaces.
Oh, I see. By removing all those financial and structural barriers, the model becomes infinitely and rapidly reproducible.
It is the rabbit multiplying.
Yeah. You don't need a 22-month gestation period or like a seminary-trained CEO to launch a new group. You literally just need a living room and a few committed people.
Exactly. The barrier to entry is almost zero.
Let's see if I'm tracking the logical conclusion of this, though.
Yep.
If the strategy intentionally avoids building these large single congregations,
Which it does, yes.
and you have all these tiny little rabbit groups scattered around,
Yes.
do they just franchise the elephant?
Franchise the elephant.
Yeah, like, is the ultimate goal still to build a massive corporate hierarchy where one CEO pastor at the top just manages 5,000 living rooms? Like, does the concept of the megachurch die, or does it just change its tax structure?
That's a great question. And the author doesn't kill the mega concept at all, actually.
Really?
No, he just redefines it by going back to the biblical text. He points to this famous phrase in John 14:12 where Jesus promises that his followers would do greater works than he did.
Oh, right.
And the book points out a massive logical hurdle here. Greater cannot possibly mean more powerful miracles.
Well, sure. Jesus already healed the sick. He controlled the weather.
He raised the dead.
Yeah, you can't really out-miracle raising someone from the dead. The ceiling on power has already been reached.
Exactly. So the author looks at the original Greek word used in that text, which is meson, and he explains that it doesn't mean greater in power. It means greater in scope and reach.
Scope and reach.
Okay. The theological logic the book presents is actually fascinating. Think about it. When Jesus was on earth, he was a physical human being, which meant he was confined to one geographic location at a time.
If he was teaching in Galilee, he obviously wasn't in Jerusalem.
Right. He was inherently bottlenecked by physical space. But the church, empowered by the Spirit, is meant to be geographically everywhere at once.
Oh, wow. So greater works actually means reaching further, expanding into way more territory simultaneously.
Exactly. The limitation of the physical body is totally removed.
So the mega shifts from centralization, gathering everyone into one giant dot on the map, to total geographic distribution.
You've got it. The book describes this ultimate goal as the mega bowl.
A mega bowl.
Yeah, it's a great term. The vision is to establish 20,000 locations across the United States. And if you just do the math on that.
Okay, let's do the math.
If you have just 20 to 30 people meeting in coffee shops and living rooms in 20,000 different cities, you suddenly have a highly connected, active network of 600,000 disciples.
600,000 people. I mean, that is undeniably a mega impact. But instead of being contained in one zip code, causing a massive traffic jam every Sunday morning.
Right, which everyone hates.
Yeah, it's an omnipresent strategy. It blankets the entire map.
It's everywhere all at once.
But, okay, here is where I think we hit a massive logistical wall.
Hit me.
A decentralized network of 20,000 independent small groups meeting in living rooms across the country.
Mm.
That sounds like an absolute recipe for chaos.
It does sound like herding cats.
Totally. Without a strong central structure, without some flagship headquarters telling everyone what to do, things tend to drift, right?
Yeah.
Human nature fractures. So how in the world does the source suggest keeping a movement like that unified?
This is where we return to that football playbook metaphor, specifically looking at how a team operates on the field during a game.
Oh.
The author says everything in a decentralized movement starts with the call, which is what establishes the culture. He uses the example of a quarterback getting up to the line of scrimmage, reading the defense, and yelling out an audible.
Like, trips right, 62 stick, alert bubble, on 1.
Exactly. Now, to the defense, or to, a fan sitting in the stands eating a hot dog, that sounds like total gibberish.
Just random numbers and words.
But to the offensive line, the receivers, the running back, it is instant clarity. It's a shared language that instantly aligns every single player around a specific purpose.
Oh, okay.
The author argues that a decentralized network survives entirely on this kind of deep, shared culture. You don't need everyone in the same physical room if everyone understands the exact same playbook.
But what does that actual shared language look like for these groups? Like, are they all just memorizing the same doctrinal statement?
It's way more operational than that. The shared language involves using the exact same metrics for success.
Metrics.
Yeah. In the elephant model, the shared language is seating capacity.
Mm-hmm.
How many people attended today, how much money was given in the offering.
The classic megachurch metric.
Right. But in the spread strategy, the shared language is sending capacity. The terminology revolves around words like laborers, omnipresent, and multiplication.
Oh, I see the difference.
When a group in Seattle and a group in Miami are both relentlessly measuring their success by how many new groups they've planted rather than how many chairs they filled, they are completely aligned without ever needing a central headquarters to manage them.
That makes total sense. And the book gets into specific player positions to make this work, too. Let's talk about the defense, because I found this fascinating. The author actually casts the reader in a specific role, the strong safety.
Yes, a strong safety in football has one primary, basically unforgiving job. Keep the play in front of you.
Yeah.
You are the absolute last line of defense. Do not let a receiver get behind you or they score. So in the spread strategy, the author says the defense's job is to protect the movement against the enemy's temptation to centralize.
Wait, so the temptation to get bigger is viewed as an actual threat that must be defended against.
Absolutely. It's the biggest threat.
Let's play this out realistically then, because I want to see how this works. Say I have 30 people meeting in my local coffee shop. The group is vibrant, things are going great, and suddenly 10 of my neighbors hear about it and they want to join.
Okay, a good problem to have.
But what am I supposed to do? Turn them away at the door. Like, tell them we're at capacity, try again later. How does a leader actually defend against growth?
Well, you don't turn them away, but you absolutely do not rent a bigger room. You multiply.
You split the group.
Yes. The moment that group hits 35 or 40 people, the strong safety recognizes the threat of becoming an elephant. Because let's be honest, it feels safer to just stay together.
And it definitely strokes the ego of the leader to have a larger group listening to them every week.
Exactly. But the strong safety forces the split. They divide that group of 40 into 2 groups of 20, and they send one group to a different neighborhood. You have to actively defend the small is the strategy mindset, ensuring no one redefines success back to that old, bloated stadium model.
Wow. So while the strong safety is playing defense against the elephant mindset, we also have the offense, or what the book calls special teams.
Yeah.
And the mechanism of this is super interesting. The author argues that the spread offense isn't just about starting a church service in a new building.
No, it's way more active than that.
It's about actively infiltrating the culture, right?
Yeah. In football, special teams, like a punt block unit or a kickoff return team, they are highly specialized squads that can instantly change the momentum and field position of an entire game.
They're game changers.
Right. And in the strategy, special teams are believers who penetrate different sectors of society. They are intentionally sent out into business, media, education, and local government.
But how does a 20-person group actually deploy someone to, like, local government? What is the actual mechanism there? Because traditional churches usually just have, a businessman's breakfast once a month in the fellowship hall.
Which is still expecting people to come to them. The spread strategy totally rejects the idea of bringing the business person into the church building to do ministry.
Okay.
The author says the business is the ministry. The deployment mechanism looks like a member of that small group running for the local school board. And not to hand out religious flyers, but to bring their ethics and values into the actual policy making of the district.
Ah, I get it. So it looks like an accountant starting a mentorship program within their firm.
Exactly. They aren't waiting in a religious building for the community to come to them. They are actively deployed into the spaces where culture is actually formed.
Which requires a hyper-specific level of what the author calls formation. This is another football concept he uses.
Yeah, formation is key.
Just as a strong safety can't suddenly decide he wants to play left tackle, the source notes that every person in this movement has a specific hardwired gift.
If people try to play a position they aren't built for, like, say, a brilliant, aggressive entrepreneur trying to force themselves to be a gentle, traditional pastoral counselor,
It could be a disaster.
the entire play breaks down. Misalignment leads to deep frustration. Proper formation, putting that entrepreneur in the marketplace as a special teams player and letting them conquer territory out there, that leads to effortless execution of the spread strategy.
Which brings us to a massive psychological roadblock.
The ambition problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
because to execute this aggressive territory-taking playbook where you are actively infiltrating business and government and relentlessly defending against traditional comfort zones, the team needs an intense psychological edge.
They really do.
And the author addresses this in a final section that he frames as a locker room pep talk.
It's a pretty bold pep talk, too.
Yeah.
He offers a rather controversial diagnosis of the modern church. The author states that the reason the church often lacks real societal impact is not because it lacks truth, and it's not because it lacks money.
It's because it lacks ambition.
Exactly. It lacks ambition.
Now, in almost every religious space, ambition is treated as a dirty word.
Oh, absolutely. It's frowned upon.
We all know the basic difference between selfish ambition, climbing the corporate ladder at the expense of others, feeding your own ego, and godly ambition, which is a purpose-driven drive to advance a mission. I think anyone listening to this understands that basic 101 distinction.
Right, sure.
But the author is pushing much harder here. He's asking everyday people to carry a massive psychological weight.
He is. He points to biblical figures like the Proverbs 31 woman, who, by the way, was buying real estate, planting vineyards, running a massive manufacturing hub.
She's basically a CEO.
Yeah. And he points out that she was incredibly ambitious and productive. But you are right to highlight the friction here. It's a lot to ask.
Think about the toll this takes. If you, as a listener, are an everyday person working a 40-hour-a-week corporate job, you have kids, a mortgage, a long commute,
You're tired.
you are exhausted. Traditionally, the Elephant Church model allowed you to show up on Sunday, sit in a padded chair for an hour, drop a check in a bucket, and go home to rest.
It was easy.
But the spread strategy is suddenly asking that same exhausted person to view their corporate office as a deployment zone. It is demanding that they view every coffee shop conversation as a networking opportunity for the kingdom.
It's a 247 mindset.
Yes. The line between ambition and profound burnout seems incredibly thin here.
It is thin, but that is the exact friction the author is trying to provoke. He acknowledges that the traditional elephant model created a comfortable class of spectators.
People who just passively consume a religious product.
Exactly. But the spread strategy completely eliminates the spectator class. It requires laborers. It demands that you take the initiative to evangelize, start businesses, and disciple people in your everyday environment.
There's no bench to sit on.
No, you cannot run a spread offense with spectators. Every single person has to be a player on the field, driven to score, even if it is exhausting.
It completely disrupts the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Well, we have covered a vast amount of ground today. Let's summarize the core differences we've uncovered in this source material.
Good idea.
On one side, you have the traditional model for growth. It's the elephant. It's massive, centralized, heavily resourced, bogged down by a 22-month gestation period of bureaucracy, and largely dependent on a passive come-and-see spectator culture.
And on the other side, you have the spread strategy. It's the rabbit. It is small, agile, keeping overhead near zero, and fiercely determined to multiply everywhere.
It totally rejects the centralized stadium in favor of 20,000 living rooms.
Right. It shifts the definition of the megachurch from one large traffic-inducing crowd to a massive distributed network of mobilized laborers, infiltrating every sector of society like deployed special teams.
It is a total paradigm shift from waiting for the world to come to you to going out and actively blanketing the world.
And the author distills this entire philosophy down to one final instruction regarding this omnipresent strategy. He references the specific biblical moment where Jesus sent his disciples out into the surrounding towns. Jesus told them that if a town did not receive their message, they shouldn't stay and fight a losing battle. They were instructed to literally shake the dust off their feet and move on to the next town.
So don't waste time trying to force the elephant through a closed door.
Exactly. The author turns this into a powerful operating principle for the spread strategy. You should be everywhere you are sent, not everywhere you are tolerated.
Everywhere you are sent, not everywhere you are tolerated. Wow. We've spent this entire deep dive looking at how this high agility, low overhead, hyper-distributed rabbit strategy is designed to disrupt the traditional religious establishment.
And it absolutely does.
But, if you take a step back and look at the broader culture, it makes you wonder where else this exact same logic is about to strike.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Think about the massive, sprawling campuses of higher education, or the giant, centralized headquarters of legacy tech companies.
The corporate 9-to-5.
Exactly. These are the ultimate elephants of our modern era. They're slow-moving, bloated with administrative overhead, relying on a spectator culture of students and employees who commute in just to sit in a room.
Just to fill a seat.
Right. If a nimble, highly distributed network of small, specialized nodes can so thoroughly dismantle the need for a central stadium in one sector, what happens when that exact same spread offense comes for the university system or the corporate 9-to-5?
The disruption would be massive.
If the elephants in those industries are too slow to adapt and too stubborn to shake the dust and multiply, we might be looking at a lot of very expensive, very empty stadiums in the next decade. Something to think about as you evaluate the massive structures in your own life.